Zero.
This is Cactus 1539. Hit birds. So lost thrust on both engines, returning back towards LaGuardia.
That's the captain of US Airways Flight 1549 talking to the control tower last month, shortly before he had to ditch the plane into the Hudson River.
A bird strike. He lost all engine. He lost the thrust in the engines. He's returning immediately.
Cactus 1529. Which engines?
He lost thrust in both engines. He said.
Got it.
The FAA released the audio recordings between the tower and pilot Chesley Sullenberg on Thursday.
80, you can land runway 1 at Teterboro.
We can't do it.
Okay, which runway would you like at Teterboro?
We're going to be in the Hudson.
Of course, this story has a happy ending. All aboard survived. Pilots say bird strikes are fairly common. There was another one just this week. A United Airlines jet collided with a bird Tuesday during takeoff in Denver, leaving a big dent in the right engine. No one was hurt, and the engine continued to function, but it brought a quick end to the trip. These close calls have airline experts everywhere asking what can be done to prevent the potential tragic loss of life when nature and technology collide.
Ever since, the beginning of aviation, we're sharing airspace with wildlife, whether it's on the ground or as you take off or as you're en route.
The FAA records that in an 18-year period ending in 2007, 11 people died from wildlife colliding with planes, mostly smaller aircraft. This test video shows stress tests as researchers toss dead birds into engines to see the impact. But there is no magic bullet to fix the problem.
There's not a single solution that'll work. It'll be multiple solutions, and it'll be a management task.
At McGuire Air Force Base in New Jersey, it's the razor-sharp talons of falcons like Nantucket here who keep the airport free of birds. After a serious bird strike in the mid-1990s, the Air Force started using falcons to clear the tarmac here, and they say bird strikes immediately dropped 80%.
Here on McGuire, falconry is the most valuable tool that we have in removing birds and stopping birds from coming onto the airfield.
They also use flare guns to scare away birds. These methods work for keeping the immediate airspace and strips clear of birds at airports. But in the case of the US Airways flight, it struck birds, probably geese, several miles from LaGuardia at an altitude of 4,000 feet. Geese are plentiful all year around the Hudson River. Here's how the NTSB described the crash after interviewing the pilot and co-pilot.
Birds to the right of the nose of the plane, and he commented that they were in a perfect line formation. He said the windscreen was filled with birds, big dark brown birds. They heard booms, felt the impact, the engines powered down, and they smelt, this is I think the captain quoting saying, he smelt burning birds.
Port Authority, which manages the New York airports, is considering buying aviation radar to spot flocks of birds. But many say the technology is still a few years from being perfected.
It's not a system where it could deliver an alert to an air traffic controller or a pilot to avoid and telling them to avoid a flock of birds, for instance. That research isn't there yet.
Meanwhile, it's still largely up to the pilot to spot and avoid bird flocks once the plane has left airport airspace. And as the US Airways crash showed, those birds can sometimes appear faster than it's possible to respond to them. Ted Shaffrey, The Associated Press, New York.